I was wondering what the mirror is for, so it seems like good enough, I think. I think it's for adjusting the mic. Make sure. Yeah, looks like pointing right. Good. It is always interesting for me to find out why different people feel compelled or invited to pursue spiritual practice, spiritual work. For what reason? And of course, everybody has their reason, has their motive. Some of it come difficulties, some of it comes from certain experiences where they are open to some wonders that are not visible usually. Some people just don't know why. They just move to find out the truth and the reality and be real or live in a real way, in an authentic way, be happy, be free. They're all good reasons, a good motive, and real actually. If you read this book, when you read it, you'll find that all these are approximations to what moves you. Is it trouble and suffering and pain that we want to be freer from, divested of? Or is it love? Love for discovery, love for reality, love for the divine, love for freedom. Or is it we hear it, somebody read someplace, met somebody. So spiritual practice or spiritual interest is as old as humankind, and I think will continue as long as they're humankind, and maybe I'll continue with that humankind and other kinds, beings who might be capable of what we call spiritual perception or experience. And our motivation or the energy or the drive that moves us doesn't stay the same. It develops as we mature, as we learn, as we develop, as we encounter ourselves and reality more and more. Really, the movement is toward closing some kind of loop. And what we call the human being or oneself will not rest when we are bitten by the spiritual bug until the loop is closed. When the loop closed, many of our questions are answered, many of them are not, but we get to a place where it doesn't matter. We are not troubled about it and feel fulfilled and happy and can become the embodiment of the authentic, the true, the deep, the meaning. As you read this book, which is talk is really an introduction to the book, you will see that there is no one way of awakening or illumination. And there is no one illumination or awakening, and there is no one enlightenment. There is no theory of everything in spirituality. Because reality is much more mysterious and indeterminate for it to be captured in any perspective, view, system, experience. So I thought, tonight I'll sort of talk a little bit about the main thing in the book, which is the Philosopher's Stone. The title of the book is The Alchemy of Freedom. My original idea of the title was Lapis Philosophorum. I thought that would be an interesting title because most people won't know what it means. But also, would make it different from the Philosopher's Stone, which is what it means, because most people think that's Harry Potter. And I think Shambhala realized that, so they thought, well, we better have a different title that is appropriate for the book. And so the book uses alchemical metaphors. Became the alchemy, and sense of freedom is sort of an important, point that is highlighted in the book. It became the alchemy of freedom. But really, what I want to talk about the Philosopher's Stone, because freedom cannot be really understood or encompassed if we don't have the possession of the Philosopher's Stone. There's only one. The alchemists were always looking for it, because whoever found it will find the key to all the secrets of existence. That's what they believed. Of course, we're trying to find it, manufacture it, and some understood that it is not something physical that you can find, and some believed that it might be something you produce in a chemistry lab. When we understand the Philosopher's Stone, when you find it, you will realize that the question whether it's physical or spiritual is irrelevant. It doesn't matter to the Philosopher's Stones. It is both and neither. And it was the topic of a retreat, a teaching I gave to some people in the school a few years ago. And I thought, at some point putting out in a book, because there is not much written, at least in the last few decades, about that topic. Not directly, not specifically, not in the encompassing way I wanted to present it. So what is the Philosopher's Stone? How is it going to help us? How is it going to help us to quench our spiritual thirst? How will we be liberated? How will it liberate us? What is it about it that liberates? What is liberated? All these are questions and answers you find in the book. So I'm not going to dwell on them. The book is really easy reading, meaning it's not technical. However, you do need to pause frequently and contemplate what this paragraph is alluding to. Because even though you might understand it, you might not get it. So there's only one Philosopher's Stone, but that doesn't mean only one person will have it. As many people who are capable will have the Philosopher's Stone, and it is the same Philosopher's Stone. It is a particular among many particulars, yet it is the source of all particulars. Now, of course, that sentence doesn't make any sense for most of us. When I say it is the key to the secrets of existence, I actually mean all the secrets of existence. I don't mean just spiritual secrets. I mean, if we really are able or capable or humble enough for us to be open to and embody and live the Philosopher's Stone, it can help our consciousness to discover whatever area, whatever secrets in whatever area we investigate, whether spiritual or physical or scientific or literary and artistic or otherwise. I just feel sweet talking about it. Because I'm talking about you. I'm talking about us. I'm talking about us as individual and us as a collective. The Philosopher's Stones make the heart melt into nectars, and the mind bright with intelligence, and the body vigorous with energy. I would say that most of us have encountered the Philosopher's Stone. And I mean, close encounters of the third kind. And probably all of us have encountered it. And the first kind, which we heard about it, many of us encountered the second kind of encounter, which means we have some feeling, some sense. But many of us have encountered it in the third kind, which means we came face to face with it, we shook hands with it, looked it into the eyes. If you had, before I say that, any experience is already an encounter with the philosopher's stone. However, it is difficult to recognize it in any experience. So we need what's called spiritual experience, or an encounter with spirit. So we need a close encounter of their kind with spiritual nature. Because spiritual nature is philosopher's stone in its purity and its perfection and its innateness. And even though it is in everything and is everything, we cannot see it because we see the many things and the everythings. And the everything and the many things are so many of them and so both inside our consciousness and our perception that we tend to miss the element that is what is it about all of those that reveals the philosopher's stone. So we need spiritual experience to find that, because it's spiritual experience so separates it from all these multiplicity of perception and experiences and objects and happenings and phenomena and all that, to show some kind of purity. So if you had a spiritual experience of any kind, spiritual opening, getting in touch with depth of your spiritual nature, having a vision of spiritual nature, having an awakening, an insight into your nature, you already have encountered the third kind with some philosopher's stone. But that doesn't mean you know it yet. It is the philosopher's stone. You know it as that experience. So the philosopher's stone, it is what is common to all of them. So that's in manner of speaking. In my recognition of the philosopher's stone, there was need for many experiences, many awakening, many realization, enlightenments of many kind, to finally recognize the philosopher's stone. Because it's like there are many facets and they need to all be somehow arrayed together to recognize that they are all expressing the same thing. So the book goes sort of in a gradual way to explore the main topic, the main point about the philosopher's stone and how it is the liberator, the teacher, and the liberation, and the fulfillment of liberation, and the love and the compassion, and also the motivation to find it, It is all the philosopher's stones. Nothing else is there but the philosopher's stone. However, it can appear specifically as a particular experience. So it is really mysterious and paradoxical in a very exciting way. If you need it to feel better, you'll be frustrated. But at some point you learn that's not the point. It's not a matter of feeling better, it's recognizing the wonder of this reality. And the wonder of this reality then eclipses all the difficulties that we have. Because some of the difficulties you could get over of them if they are a psychological nature, but many of them are physical nature or political nature or something like that you can't really do much about. Philosopher's stone is also you. It's you in the sense it's through your true self or your true nature. That's why in the book I refer to it as true nature. True nature of what? Your true nature, and also the true nature of everything. What is true nature? What does it mean, the word true nature? Meaning it is the fundamental, unconstructed and unproduced essence of what we are and of everybody. And got it? You can get it at any point in the talk, You might already got it, and you know it, that you got it, or maybe you got it and you don't know you got it. And when you know you got it, you won't be able to stop being laughing or being happy. You want to go out celebrating. And the other thing, when you are in possession of the philosopher's stone, it is not something you actually own. It is not something you find out that the philosopher's stone or the unfabricated nature of what you are is not something you can possess or attain. It will possess you when it attains you and consumes you and dissolves you and swallows you, so that there will be nothing left but the philosopher's stone that lives the life that most people think is your life. It appears that way. So is my life my life? Is my experience my experience? That is one of the questions, one of the mysteries. Now we discover, in most spiritual paths, you discover that. The book brings it about in some kind of a provocative way, by challenging the different paths, actually. In the book, I challenge all the paths. I challenge them by affirming them. By affirming them, I mean by affirming all of them instead of one of them. So, for most spiritual paths, if you affirm many teachings, for them is bad news, because they want to be the truth. They got the truth. They got what we call the philosopher's stone, although they might not call it the philosopher's stone. So they think the other people, they probably have an imitation or an approximation, maybe getting close to it, but they haven't really got the right insight. So to affirm all of them is a challenge for all of them, really. That is one reason why I thought a good time to put out this kind of teaching, because we are in time in our life on earth that all the groups, all the nationalities, all the ethnic groups, all the races, they're all together. They're all out there. They're all sort of interacting and meeting. And how are they going to live together and interact in a way that is optimal, that is good for all of them, if we believe one of them is it and the other than not exactly it? So this is more a teaching about the inner nature that makes it possible to see that the variety and the differences are no problem. It is the nature of reality that it is like that. Because the philosopher's stone expresses itself in so many ways. Expresses itself on galaxies, stars and planets and life and beings and souls and minds and experiences and different kind of paths, different kind of practices. That's what Jennifer was referring to as non-hierarchical. I mean, not one of them is better than the other. They're all valid, they're all true. And some people like one more than the other because that's what works for them. Great. Just like, when you want to find work, or you're going to go to college, you want to have a major, you choose something, and everybody chooses something different. See, that's normal. That doesn't mean that what we choose is better than what the other person chooses. Right? It's just, you have different choices. You study different things, different expressions of reality. We do all need to go deep with ourselves. And you can go deep into other things, but you have to go into them in a kind of inner encounter, not an outer manipulation. The mystery is both inside and outside, but it requires the heart of the consciousness to be in touch with it, to know it and experience it. So I guess that anybody who gets interested in spiritual orientation, or spiritual practice, or spiritual illumination, or finding the meaning of life, or freedom, that is fundamental. If you're really into it and you're sincere about it, you find something, you experience something. And might take time, but you got all of your life. I mean, I can be seen as representing the Philosopher's Stone, but there isn't nobody here actually representing the Philosopher's Stone. It's the Philosopher's Stone speaking. And it is the Philosopher's Stone who's listening. So wherever we go in terms of finding the truth, or finding the authentic, finding the real, finding the depth, wherever we go, it is we're moving toward the Philosopher's Stone, and we are moved by the Philosopher's Stone. And the more we know the Philosopher's Stone, the greater the freedom there is. Freedom from difficulties and freedom to navigate reality, both inside and outside. And I think humanity has discovered many of the secrets. There's a lot more to discover. The potential is infinite of the Philosopher's Stone, what it makes beings who can know it, what kind of experience they have, what kind of capacity they have. I remember one time I was walking in the beach, in the sand with a friend, and it occurred to me, well, here I am, and then I was in the middle of a retreat, I'm teaching something, and I'm something, and I said, well, I wonder, how will I see myself if I look at myself from like 500 years from now? And it was interesting. I was laughing at myself. I realized how little I knew. Although, many can say, oh, he knows a lot, he's read a lot of books. I myself have realized by looking from the future that the present one is just beginning. But that is a possibility. The Philosopher's Stone to give us that capacity to look from any time. So really the main thing in any spiritual practice, any spiritual teaching, any path is the spiritual element itself. Spirit itself, or spiritual nature. Different teaching call it different names, but it is really all the same thing, but they experience it differently. It is not like the different paths are not different paths on a mountain to the same summit. That's not how it is seen from this perspective. It is more like each path goes to a different summit. There are many summits, but all the mountains are the expressions of the Philosopher's Stone. The Philosopher's Stone appears clearly and purely at the top of each one of those mountains differently. And so if you are at the top of the mountain and you look around and you see the kind of light, the kind of freedom, you're free and liberated and realized and all of that, enlightened when you get to the top of the mountain. But, you can see there are many other mountains. At the top of each one of them, the one who's there also has freedom and enlightenment, although their experience is very different from yours. So it is not the idea that different paths are different ways of getting to the top of the mountain. There are many tops of the mountain, and it's much more interesting than that even. So the Philosopher's Stone can be seen as some kind of a prima materia, as a mysterious truth, as the inner nature of our consciousness, as the inner nature of everything, including the nature of the electrons, for instance. What is an electron? Do you know that no scientist knows what an electron is? Scientists know what an electron does, how it interacts, but what is it? Nobody knows. Maybe we will find out at some point. But you know your mind. But do you really know your mind? You know your heart, but do you really know your heart? You know something about it. You know how it functions, whatever, but what is it? So I'm not trying to really evoke a kind of experience. I'm giving a perspective, some kind of a way of looking at things that hopefully can open things up for us, whichever way it is right for us. Because spiritual paths you see, I hesitate when I say many words because they're all approximations. To say a spiritual path is an approximation. There is no path and there is no spiritual when you know the Philosopher's Stone. So I don't know what to do. So I'll have to say something. But I keep hesitating because I'm catching myself all the time, realizing what I'm saying is not exactly it. So how to have some kind of a rambling, successive approximation. It is, the Philosopher's Stone is experienced by many as a pure consciousness. As when you recognize you are conscious, you know you're conscious, and you recognize experientially, directly, what is it that makes you conscious? What makes you have experience? It's called pure consciousness. Or you can think of it, other teaching, think of it as awareness. You're aware, you're perceptive. And awareness is all life has, all being has. But awareness for most people is just like consciousness, it's very similar. It implies perception or awareness of something, while awareness can be experienced on its own, apart from its awareness of something. Can be awareness aware of itself. When people have that, they call it awakening. Oh, I awakened, I know that's all pure awareness. Wow, everything is pure awareness. I am pure awareness. Well, look at me. Even my body is pure, transparent, glistening awareness. Wow. And the mind is sharp, the being is open and clear, and everything transparent, and everything is glistens, and everything is pure awareness. Another day, you find that you have emotional issues. Right? Everybody got emotional issues, especially relational issues. You have problem about relationship with your family, your partners, all these things. But all these relationships are really around the center of all relationship has to do with love. If you really look at the end relation, what's it about? You want to give love or receive love, or exchange love, or interact about love. And if it is not love, it is hatred, which is the blockage of love, or reaction about the absence of love, that you're not loved, you're hateful, you're interacting with hatred. But the hatred is nothing but it's a scattering products of the blockage of love, of the collision of love. You see. So all emotional, relational issues, if you really take them down, this come down to the question of love. That we want to experience love. Human beings need love. And we can't thrive without love. Human beings actually need love more than awareness, because they believe they already got awareness. But love is sort of rare in the world. And we can discover love, we can follow our relational issues or questions until we realize that they're either expressing love or they're missing love, and either thread, expressing or missing, if you follow them, you'll arrive at the question of love. What is love? And then love can arise in you, and you experience love. And you've already experienced love, but you experience the very essence of love, the very substance of love, the very being of love. Sweet, fragrant, yummy, and pleasurable, generous, overflowing. Compassionate, tender, warm and sweet and caressing. The body needs love, the mind needs love, the heart needs love. Everything about life needs love of sort. Because love makes life thrive. Thrive, not just survive. Thrive means to flower, to express itself, to create, to reach its potentiality. But when we know love, we realize love is something in the heart. I feel for somebody or for something. You might love tennis, or you might love, Beyonce, or you might love, your iPhone, or you might love your child, or might love your mother, but it is something about love. What is it? Most people just, I love, but they don't know. What is it? What is love? Can you just feel feel love itself? What is it, regardless of the object? Just like awareness, to know awareness itself, regardless of the object of awareness. The same thing can happen with love, regardless of the object of love. What is love? And you find it is also, love is its own being. We can experience the spiritual nature as pure love. So the purity can be awareness, or it can be love. It also can be truth. And when I say truth, I mean you really not just know truth about something. No, you know what is it that makes you know it is the truth about something. When you experience something and you know this is true, how do you know it is true? So truth is what makes all true things true, but truth can be even truth independent of what is true. Because truth is true by being truth. It is truth in itself, and we can experience ourselves and our spirit as truth. Warm, full, rich, authentic. Remind me of those big golden statues of the Buddha. Now, each one of them, truth, love, awareness, consciousness, whatever it is that is pure in itself is the philosopher's stone. We are encountering philosopher's stone in the third kind of experience. But philosopher's stone is one thing. It is all of these, but it is even more subtle than any of these. The philosopher's stone appears as consciousness, as awareness, as love, as truth, as being, as existence itself, or as emptiness, the non-existence itself. We can experience all of those in our spiritual paths. And it is good that we experience all of those. The philosopher's stone, you could say, is what I'm calling the philosopher's stone. Appears in experience when we experience it purely as one of those spiritual ultimates, spiritual purities. Yet that does not, neither of them encompass it, neither of them exhaust it, and all of them don't exhaust it because it can appear in other ways. So pure awareness is an appearance of the philosopher's stone. Pure love is an appearance of the philosopher's stone. Pure truth is an appearance of the philosopher's stone. And that will make us wonder, what is it then behind all these appearances? Can we know it without the appearances? If you know it in another way, which are many, it will be an appearance of the philosopher's stone. The moment you know that you know it, it eludes you because it is something even more subtle, and the game is afoot. And the fun really happens. So we begin from wanting liberation and freedom and freedom from suffering and happiness and all of that, and then before we know it, the life of liberation is a matter of knowing reality as completely, as subtly, and as deeply as possible. And when that becomes life, and that life is an ongoing, endless discovery of the different ways that this truth is. Be careful. So this both confirms and challenges all these truths, confirms them as authentic, true realization and liberation, and challenges them by saying, not only that, that is true. The life of an ongoing liberated life, meaning a life of creative discovery of oneself and one life, one reality. I refer to it in the book as the red sulfur, which is another alchemical symbol. Red sulfur for the alchemist is something that can be obtained by combining mercury and sulfur. I don't know, maybe there is a compound like that, I don't really know, but they were looking for it because red sulfur it means the action of the philosopher's stone. The dynamic creative expression, the dynamic creative manifestation of that paradoxical truth that makes us alive, makes us aware, but also makes us suffer. Makes us have a hard time, makes us have a good times, makes us have experience. So if we know awareness, we got it. If we know presence, we got it. If we know love, we got it. If we know truth, we got it. If we know peace, we got it. That is close encounter of the third kind. And I'm sure many of us know one of those at least, or another. And we can live it. Some of us can live this kind of truth in one degree of freedom or another, one degree of completeness or another. And those kind of things are what motivates humanity, what moves human beings. Even the people who we believe are false and astray and hateful, whatever, they don't think so. They think they're doing what is true. See, they think they're doing what they want to do. So truth, there's no such thing as post-truth era, because everybody always values the truth. The truth they take might not be deeply true, but they believe it is true. They value truth. They want to believe that what they know, what they have is the truth. You might not agree with them, they might be wrong, but they believe it's true, which means all human beings value truth. That might need a deep contemplation to recognize that. So, if we know any of these, if we discover any of these, which mean to know them in themselves, not their impact on us, their outer expression, their emotional, mental expression, but to know them in their isness, in their suchness, in their essence, we are having a close encounter with the Philosopher's Stone. We don't know it's the Philosopher's Stone if we believe that it is awareness fundamentally, ultimately so. If we think it is love fundamentally, ultimately so, is the ultimate truth is love. Love is the final thing. You have encounter with the Philosopher's Stone. You don't know it as the Philosopher's Stone yet. You know it as love. Same thing with awareness or truth or any of those things. It is when we are free to move between all of those, and including all other experiences, and they have the freedom not to judge one or the other, or to take the side of one or the other in some kind of a doctrinaire way, then we're closer to recognizing the Philosopher's Stones. Of course, there are many methods, different paths have different methods, different practices, all that, fine. We're not discussing that now, we're just discussing the main element that the book discusses. So it will support any genuine path, but also will open that path to other paths, to see that other path has some truth, that even though you are on the straight, right path for you, there are other paths that are also going straight to the truth, and might not be your truth, but it is as liberating as your truth. We have to be really open-minded, hearted, open to have that kind of attitude, that kind of openness. I call it all-rounded openness. Because you can feel open, but when it comes down to it, I mean, the feeling, the sense of openness is an experience of inner space. You feel openness. But when it comes to discussion or action, you're limited. You only take one direction. So openness will have to be operational, not just a feeling. So, okay, so I think I talked enough. So let's see if we have some questions that bring out more things for me to say, because I'm sure there are many useful things to say I haven't said. Okay, that's a question there. Yeah, wait for the microphone so that people can hear you. Yeah, here's.
Hi. You spoke of the valuation of truth and that all humans value truth. And I've got no problems, I don't think, wrapping my mind around that concept. But what about the valuation of lies? So when somebody knowingly ascribes to lies or uses lies as a means to gain something, where does that fit?
Well, they still value truth because many people lie and they know they're lying, but they believe they're lying for something that's important for them. That is, they believe it is the true thing for them to have. So someplace they value truth, not in that expression. So it's true, you see many people seem like they're lying. And sometimes they don't know, sometimes they know they're lying. So when I say valuing, everybody values the truth, I don't mean everybody tells the truth. You know, many people lie because they feel they're expressing a certain truth or protecting a certain truth. It might not be to you the truth that they're expressing or protecting, but for them it is. Does that make sense? Yes. Yeah, that's what I mean. So truth, you can't get away from truth. You know. Okay, another hand then.
Hi, Hamid.
Hey.
So I'm sure I'm not the only one. It's related to this question about the moment we're in, the poignancy of hearing you speak on the eve of activities this weekend and the so-called March for Science. And I'm sitting here and I keep thinking, what is it really about? What is really going on? And the way I experience it is as an attack on a lot of what you're speaking, an attack on curiosity, inquiry, of engaging with truth. So I'm sitting here with that, and I'm noticing I'm really wanting some more clarity on how to relate to what's happening, what's unfolding. And I think I'm confused. I don't really understand this flight that we're seeing taking place, this flight from being with whatever science is representing, which to me is really about reality. It's not so much about science. So that's what's coming up for me.
Yeah, so science has been an important thing for a few hundred years and has definitely contributed to life and betterment of life and well-being for many beings. But at the same time, and science, of course, takes the view it is an attempt at finding the truth about many things, of many phenomena, and obviously had many good results. But it's not the first time that people question science. For instance, the question of Darwin theory of evolution, that life evolved right, until the human being developed. That has been questioned for decades. Many people said, no, humanity was created 10,000 years ago. That's actually, people believe that. I remember hearing about it 20, 30 years ago, that there's still many people, and you'll be amazed the percentage of people in the world who believe that, at least in this country, who believe that, no, the world was really created 10 or 7,000 years or something. And I remember watching TV, somebody asking them, well, what do you make of all these archaeological findings and all these carbon dating and all that? And the person said, that's just a test for your faith. What do you take to be true? So obviously this person, those people, believe that the world, what was said in the Bible is literally the truth. They take that to be the truth. Then they think it's more true than science is. So it's a belief system. It's not verifiable according to science, but these people think it's faith. Faith is more important than verification. In fact, the church says that. Faith is in your heart. So things get complex and complicated and convoluted, and it's probably happening now, and it happened in the past too. It's not the first time. And it is possible that we could have another dark age. Remember, one time the European continent had more enlightenment at the time of the ancient Greeks. They had science, but then a few hundred years after that, the thing plunged. People forgot all of that, and it went some other place on Earth, and they got developed before they got back to Europe, and then we had the Age of Enlightenment and all. So it is not impossible that we get plunged again into darkness, and it will be done in the name of truth. That's the problem. So truth is not it's not a little thing. It's not a simple thing, and that's why in spiritual work, a spiritual practice, said the truth is something you have to ascertain for yourself. Now, many traditions do different things about it. Some traditions say you have the inner certainty that you see the truth of reality, and you're so certain that it doesn't matter what anybody else says. Other traditions say that is not enough. You have to have other people confirming it, other people who have similar experience. So it is a complex thing about the question of truth. But all of them, they believe that there is something true. People who believe in faith, they believe their faith is true. Their faith is telling them the truth. And for me, the truth will need to be looked at from many facets, from many angles. Faith is one of them, science is another, personal experience another, verification of others, conferred other. And I think we need to have all of those, for us to really to have some kind of truth that is fundamental, and that is not just a belief, not just a feeling, not just a position. But that's what spiritual teachings say, is that truth is something unconstructed, independent of the mind, independent of the history. It is something that emerges on its own, and you recognize it, and you recognize it as the truth, and the truth is recognizing itself as the truth, and that is called awakening, right? And that's what spiritual teaching do. But most people don't actually believe that way, don't live their life that way, including most scientists. Most scientists will say that's not verifiable, it's not verifiable. You know, the way we verify things, we cannot accept it as truth. But for somebody who's involved in spiritual practice, the proof is in the pudding, meaning the truth you have actually does liberate you. Myself, I think of it, not only liberate me that I am free, but I am a good person, and good for others. Not just good for myself, but good for others. And the more one is good for themselves, and as they are good for themselves, they are good for the other. The more I think of them as coming to a deeper truth. Truth is not just one thing, you see, as you know. Okay, the back.
This is probably a dumb question, but why is it called a philosopher's stone?
That's what the alchemists called it. Alchemists had this idea that they called the philosopher's stone, which is some kind of truth or some kind of substance that if you recognize it, find it, it will open up the secrets of experience, the secret of existence. So I'm using that terminology to refer to it because I'm calling it philosopher's stone because my usual term for it is true nature. But true nature is changes depending on which path, which tradition. They think of it differently. And by using the word philosopher's stones, I'm taking it outside of that context and putting a new word so that we'll be free from that kind of association, and because it can encompass all of them. And it is not a stone. The philosopher's stone is not a stone, although it appears as stones. One can experience the philosopher's stone as a stone, or as a meteor, or as a crystal, but it also can appear as an ocean of light, can appear as dark, black, peaceful, infinite expanse of space. So all of those, but stone, philosopher's stone is just the name that the alchemist gave to this elusive truth. Yeah.
Hi. You were saying that different paths or approaches lead to results that are often equally liberating.
Yeah.
But then I think you also said that we're not all going up different paths to the summit of the same mountain.
Yeah.
And I have friends in other approaches, and I think I've always felt a certain brotherhood or closeness based on some assumption, maybe emotionally, that we're all going to the same place. But so it's not the same mountain that we're climbing, but the results are equally liberating.
Yeah.
How is that? Is the view different from the different peaks? Or you said they can see one another?
Oh, the view definitely different, and different teachings. Each teaching has its view. Each teaching views reality and views oneself and others and organization somewhat differently than other teachings. And some teachings have debates between them, as you know. So, and in this perspective I'm presenting, and I'm saying, I like the debates myself, because the debates reveal to me the truth of the two sides. I don't take the debates to see who wins and I believe it. You see, I like the debate because each one is presenting their view as clearly as possible, and I'm learning from it. So that's why I like dialogue with different teachers, different traditions, because each one has some expression of the truth that's different from the others. Many have the truth in a way I don't know it, and I'm happy to learn it.
Thank you. I also understand that great geniuses like Isaac Newton, who gave us Newtonian mechanics, were also on the side alchemists and in search of the philosopher's stone, but it seems as though a lot of that has been suppressed in the current culture.
Yeah, he did write a big book on alchemy, well known. I haven't read it, so I don't know how deeply he got into it and what it was his perspective in it. But there are many scientists, good scientists, innovative scientists who are also mystical, have a mystical orientation, mystical experience, or like many of the founders, quantum theory, for instance, had mystical leaning. Many of them have no knowledge of some of the Eastern teachings, but they didn't want to discuss it because they thought if they mentioned that in their writing, in their papers, nobody would listen to them. So, but it is known now that many have that, and in some sense, I started as a scientist, and I was looking for the truth. And that's why I was a scientist. And then at some point I realized that way was good, but it was going to take me longer to find the kind of truth that would give me satisfaction. So I changed course to another way of investigation. And but science is an interesting thing. There are scientists who are mystical, or very open, or very liberal, but there are scientists who are also very conservative and very doctrinaire, very rigid in their religious point of view. They're either atheist or debunking of religion, or adhering to some particular religion in a very orthodox, very conservative way. You can find, being a scientist is just one thing a human being can do, but the rest of one's consciousness can do other things. Just like being an artist, it's a similar thing. Yes.
I don't know if you're saying this or not, but I'm having a little trouble with, so we'll massacre millions of Jews. It's the philosopher's stone. Or today, ISIS will chop people's head off if they don't believe. It's the philosopher's stone. I don't think you're saying that, and I'm willing to admit I can feel my reactivity here with that. What piece am I missing is what I'm asking. Thank you.
Anyone who knows or have close encounter with philosopher's stone want to do those horrible things you're talking about. No. If you really know the Philosopher's Stone, you know the purity or the perfection of it, and it's pure goodness.
Okay. So, but, you know, being raised in a born-again evangelical Christian family, I believe they deeply believe what they believe.
Right.
But their ancestors will also did the Crusades, and I don't know that I think they wouldn't have done the Crusades if they really knew the Philosopher's Stone. It gets murky for me. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like we all are trying, yes, to find the truth. Thank you.
Yeah, it gets murky a lot. That's nothing unusual, actually. It gets, most of the time it gets murky. It's only rarely things get clear, actually. So, it is, the Philosopher's Stone is such a mysterious kind of thing, because it is, at some point, when you understand it, you know it's everything. And then you wonder, well, if it is everything, but you talk about it being pure, or love and truth, how can there be such atrocities? Right? It seems contradictory. But Philosopher's Stone is complete contradiction. It's completely paradoxical. And it is, it's a question that many people have, which is, that if the essence of reality is goodness, how can there be such bad things? That's the usual question. And different traditions give different answers to that question. It is God's will, or it is your karma, or one thing or another. And from the perspective, the way I see it from the perspective of Philosopher's Stone, is that reality has all the possibilities in it. And we can fall into a possibility that we see as negative and destructive, or we fall into something that is beautiful and life-enhancing. That's possible. And so the spiritual practice is a matter of practicing in a way so that the purity and the goodness is the area we go, we gravitate toward. We align ourselves with that expression of reality. So I don't take the view that reality is all beautiful and the atrocities are illusion. I think the atrocities are real, are terrible. But that is one way reality can manifest. Yeah, that's one way reality can manifest. It's a question of, because reality has everything in it. Good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful. All of it there. However, spiritual practice is about getting to the purity and side of true nature, or beautiful side of reality. Now, it gets subtle, as I said, and because of that, it gets murky for most people. And so that, for spiritual practice, is a matter of getting an inner balance, and getting some kind of a clarity, so we could find the pure and the beautiful and the perfect in us, and in such a way that we know it and be it in an indestructible way. And I think the more people who can approach that or have some kind of approximation of that, the better it will be for other people. But I don't have an illusion about like we're going to have a golden age in 100 years or anything like that. Okay.
Earlier you said there was no theory of everything in spirituality.
Yeah.
And without belaboring theory,
Yeah.
it would seem that the philosopher's stone would in fact be that which would allow one to, you could say, use as a litmus test for everything. So is there a contradiction there, or is simply a matter of the terms used?
Well, that's a good question, I think, because the philosopher's stone is so far is a notion, right, that saying underlies all other notions. However, that notion is not determined yet. You see, I'm not saying that anybody got full grasp of it. And because of that, there are always possibilities of other things that one doesn't know, hasn't encompassed, that might be more encompassing. So I don't think that what I'm saying is going to encompass all the truth that's going to come.
Okay, because it would seem that the philosopher's stone would encompass the unknowable.
Yes. I'm using the word philosopher to encompass the unknowable. Well, but that's the subtlety there. The subtlety is the assumption there is something unknowable. Is it unknowable, or is it only knowable in many ways? Right? I'm not saying I know the answer to that question. I'm saying it's an edge there. So because many people say the ultimate is unknowable, like many people who are in the monotheistic tradition, they think the divine essence of God is unknowable. God in God's nature is unknowable. And, but that means is not knowable by human beings. And I'm not saying that is true. I'm not saying it isn't true. You see, the notion of philosopher's stone leave that question open.
In a way, then, I guess you could say it's beyond knowing and unknowing.
Well, you could say that, but even that is a position. You see?
Thank you.
No. Okay, Charlie.
It might be off the subject, but dealing with, you talked about the suffering and something about humility. It seems like if one would need, great humility to accept all the points of view.
Yes.
And I also, the biblical, not that I'm very, suffer the little children to come of thee because they are the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
It has a inclusivity. But I was just curious about humility in dealing with, suffering.
That's a good question. It's true. I think it is true. When I think about the different teaching, different traditions, different perspectives, different philosophies, the genuine thing that leads to liberation, what unifies them? It is not what they call their truth. What unifies them is how they express themselves in their life. And the way they express their life is usually humility and serenity and equanimity and things like truthfulness and innocence. And these, nobody says these are ultimate truth, but these are the effects of the inner truth on our life and our attitude and expression. And that's what I see. That's where the liberated meet. They are all open-hearted and friendly. So I think we will stop here for, that we'll go on to the next thing, which is the book signing. I'm going to sign books for you. But if you want your name to be written in the book, you should hand me a piece of paper with your name on it. Don't assume I know your name or I'll remember it. Everybody, if you want your book signed, please give me a piece of paper. You want to say something? Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, just talk.
Just talk. Oh, okay. So the book signing is going to happen, as Hamid was saying, and we're going to be handing out little stickies and pens. So you want to write on the sticky how you want Hamid to inscribe the book. So just your first name, last name, and printing is great. And we're going to take a few minutes break so people can leave. And the book signing table is back there, and it's going to form there and come back up this aisle and in front of the stage and around here. And the book sales are still open if you want to purchase a book and haven't yet. And that's it. Thank you all for coming. And thank you, Hamid.